Feeding the hungry from the ground up. Before we get to our first guest, some background on harvest time at the farm operated by the Hunger Task Force Milwaukee. Here's Nate Custer, the new anchor for the CBS 58 Morning News.
You got to get out and see what we do.
Volunteers like Chuck DeGraw provide the sweat equity the Hunger Task Force needs to feed many hungry Milwaukee families by working at this farm in Franklin. The hundreds of acres of farmland cultivated by the organization represents a truly unique local answer to food insecurity in our area.
We grow our own food, and we're able to move that food out into our food pantry network. Soup kitchens, homeless shelters, low-income seniors throughout Milwaukee County are able to receive fresh farm-grown produce because we have a farm.
That's another big one, right?
While there's little question it's hard work, it's clearly a labor of love for the volunteers.
Very rewarding for me because I'm doing something for people, but I'm also, selfishly doing something for myself.
This group of volunteers is hard at work picking corn by hand at the Hunger Task Force farm here, and though they're such a small group, all that hard work adds up quickly. As you can see, this collects really fast, and just think about all the produce they're able to collect right here on the farm.
We're looking to bring in over 500,000 pounds this year. So as you can imagine, with increased acreage, that means increased labor. And so we have an increased need for volunteers.
The Hunger Task Force remains hopeful that more volunteers will step forward to help this harvest season.
They're going to be working hard, but they feel really good at the end of the day about knowing that they've helped somebody in need.
We could not work this farm without volunteers.
And without the farm, more families would face empty cupboards more often. We are reporting in Franklin. Nate Custer, CBS 58 News.
Hunger Task Force Executive Director Sherrie Tussler continues our conversation this morning about the farm.
The farm.
Yeah, great place. How's the harvest this year? You have a bountiful harvest?
This has been the best season yet. We've been out there for about 10 years, working what used to be the Milwaukee County House of Correction work farm. We've converted it to a farm that helps hungry people here in Milwaukee. And this season, we anticipate bringing in about 500,000 pounds of produce.
Oh, wow. 500,000 pounds. And that's up considerably from what you have had in recent years. Obviously, the weather has played a factor, and a big change from last summer when that drought really cut down on your harvest.
The drought was really tough on us. We didn't get enough acres in, and we only brought in about 275,000 pounds of produce. And so this year, it's been cool, it's been wet, it's been a really great season for a lot of our fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, the only urban farm in the state, really, with the sole purpose of feeding the hungry. It's quite the unique setup, isn't it?
Exactly. We grow the produce, we pick it, and the very next day it goes to a local food pantry, soup kitchen, or homeless shelter, absolutely free of charge.
Through in Nate's story there, we saw a number of people out in the farm fields, corn being one of the staples that you grow. What are some of the other?
Beans, peppers, cucumbers, greens. We've got 4 orchards, and so we're bringing in apples and pears. We even have melons this year, watermelon and muskmelon.
Really? And so you have orchards, you have, what, about 130 some acres of farmland as well?
There are 208 acres.
280, okay.
174 of them are tillable. This year we brought 90 on board. Over the years we've been mechanizing. Farming's kind of an expensive business, and so you have to buy tractors and implements. We've added staff, but this year we got her up to about 90 acres, and every year we'll add more acres.
Sherrie, you touched on the history. Back in 1946, this all got started. Again, inmates working that field. And then the Hunger Task Force partnered with Milwaukee County, what, about 9 years ago?
Yeah, Milwaukee County was planning on closing the farm down. They didn't see a value in having the inmates grow the food anymore. They hired a company that was producing the meals instead of using that produce. We had been recipients of excess produce, and the county board basically said, why don't we marry Milwaukee County's farm with Hunger Task Force and continue to do good for the citizens of Milwaukee County.
Has this been a model for other groups like Hunger Task Force? Have they seen this and said, you know what, we should be doing this as well?
Lots of food banks might glean food or have groups that go out and pick after farmers are done, but none really operate their own farm, and so we're pretty unique in the nation.
Yeah, that really certainly does provide a boost for you at a time when the need has been has never been greater, really.
Well, we've got about 38,000 people visiting food pantries here in Milwaukee County right now on a monthly basis. Our soup kitchen numbers are around 50, 60,000 every single month, and that includes the homeless shelters. And some of this farm produce has even gone to other counties. We serve seniors in Waukesha, Ozaukee, Washington, and Rock counties. And so some of the food's going out in the boxes for seniors as well.
I know you get a lot of canned goods and box goods, and that's all important, but there's nothing like freshly grown fruits and veggies.
People get really excited about receiving a dozen ears of corn or a huge melon. They're not used to getting fresh produce at the pantry level. So we think it's not only dignified, but we're improving people's health.
More than just an feeding the hungry, this is an educational tool, isn't it? Or you actually have kids coming out to the farm, and perhaps some for the first time in their lives.
Kids from some of MPS's poorest schools are coming to the farm on a regular basis, not just as a seasonal field trip, but throughout the growing season. They help plant the children's garden, and we've got a home economics kitchen right there at the farm with a registered dietitian who teaches the kids how to eat their fruits and vegetables, how to recognize them, what to do with that food.
Yeah, there's one thing about learning about proper nutrition in the classroom, but it's another going out to an area like this and seeing where it's grown and why it's so important.
The kids are super excited about it. They have a really good time while they're out there, and they get to see something other than urban Milwaukee. It's a farm, and it's so close by.
And I imagine for some kids, they'll want to come back. And you have people coming back to become volunteers. We saw that in the story about the satisfaction they get from really rolling up their sleeves and helping their neighbors in many cases.
Absolutely, and we could not manage that farm without volunteers, and we're still encouraging volunteers to come. We've got apples and pears to pick. We still have melons out in the field, and so if people want to volunteer, they should go to the Hunger Task Force website, hungertaskforce.org, click on the volunteer tab, and get out to the farm and help us out.
Yeah, how many people can how many volunteers do you have? How many more would you like to have?
We have shifts of volunteers that come in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening, and so we can use 50 to 100 volunteers for every single shift. Individuals can come, congregations can come, school groups, corporate retreats. We encourage everybody to come. Last year we used about 2,000 volunteers.
2,000 volunteers. That's quite an army. A lot of volunteerism there, but it's also a place of employment for some people and training.
It absolutely is. Harley Davidson invested in the farm earlier this year and gave us a $2.4 million grant. And part of that is to create a training program for low-income people from Milwaukee. We think that farm work is hard work. We think that if people haven't had employment in the past, they can come out and work farm, they can earn a sustaining wage, and then Harley Davidson's willing to ladder them up into their workplace.
Really? So it has become a stepping stone for a number of people.
Absolutely. The farm presents all kinds of opportunities for all kinds of people here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, just a valuable resource for the Hunger Task Force, in fact, the entire community.
Absolutely.
All right, Sherrie Tussler, thanks so much for stopping by, talking about the farm and harvest time. And again, you saw the website there. Let's put it up one more time for information about the farm or anything that Hunger Task Force does, hungertaskforce.org. Any event coming up that you would like to talk about before we move on?
Well, we're looking forward to Feeding Milwaukee. That'll be coming up in November.
That's right.
It's going to be an absolutely awesome event.
I know we helped out in that last year, and before you know it, Thanksgiving will be here, won't it?
It will be.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, Mission of Mercy, how two familiar faces are using their fame to provide life-saving support to millions of